I ran my fingers along the empty shelf inside the safe. The metal felt cold, smooth, no scratches, no marks where someone might have pried or forced their way in. Just an empty cavity where $180,000 in cash and my late wife's jewelry collection had been that morning before I left for my fishing trip. The safe door hung open behind me. I'd been standing there long enough that my coffee had gone cold on the desk. 3 hours, maybe 4. Time moved strangely when you realized your daughter and her husband had just stolen your retirement. Voices drifted from the kitchen. Lula's laugh high and bright. Seth's lower rumble responding. They'd been living in the guest wing for a year now. Temporary, they'd said, just until they got back on their feet. I picked up the desk phone and dialed. Phoenix Police Department. I'd like to report a theft. Detective Ramirez arrived within the hour. He examined the safe. Clean job, he said. No scratches, no drill marks. He tested the combination. Works perfectly. He photographed the empty interior, then turned to me. Mr. Butler, I need to ask who has access to this safe. 3 people. Myself, my daughter Lula, her husband Seth. Ramirez's posture shifted slightly. The combination. Is it written down anywhere? Stored digitally? No. Memorized only. When did you last change it? 6 months ago. What was taken? Cash, my retirement savings, $180,000, and my late wife's jewelry collection. Without physical evidence of a break-in, Ramirez said carefully. We're looking at someone who knew the code. You understand what that means. I understand. I'll need to speak with your daughter and son-in-law. I walked to the study door and called down the hallway. Lula. Seth, could you come here, please? Seth appeared first, hands darting in and out of his pockets. This is crazy. His voice came out too loud. Who would do this? Lula rushed past him and wrapped her arms around me. Dad, this is terrible. Who would do this? The embrace felt performative. She pulled back quickly. We'll help you look for clues, she said. I noticed she hadn't asked what was stolen. Ramirez questioned them. Seth's story came out in a tumble. He'd been working late all week. Ray, buddy, we'll figure this out. He forced a smile. We're family, right? When Ramirez asked about the safe combination, Seth shifted his weight. I mean, yeah. Ray gave it to me for emergencies, but I've never used it. Never needed to. Lula jumped in. My father is the most honest person I know. She looked at Ramirez. People take advantage of that. The detective took their statements. I'll be honest with you. These cases are tough. Very tough. We'll investigate, but without witnesses or footage. I understand. Thank you for coming, detective. After Ramirez left, Seth and Lula retreated to their bedroom. I heard the urgent murmur of their voices. I sat at my desk and opened my laptop, created a new document, typed timeline. Last 7 days at the top. I knew the police couldn't help me. I'd spent my career building cases. This was just another case, except this time it was personal. Something cold settled in my chest. Not rage, not grief, something methodical. They thought the police visit had spooked them into safety. They thought I was just a defeated old man accepting his loss. That was their first mistake. I steepled my fingers and stared at the screen. 3 days. I'd give them 3 days to slip up. Then I'd know for certain. I checked my watch again. 6:45. Lula was 15 minutes late to the dinner I'd invited her to, and Seth hadn't shown up at all. The dining table was set with 3 places. I'd prepared the meal myself. I heard footsteps on the porch, and then a knock. Sorry, Dad. Lula, breezing in, not quite meeting my eyes. Seth got caught up at the office. You know how his projects are. Convenient. We sat. Lula accepted food but barely touched it, pushing vegetables around her plate. She kept checking her phone. How's Seth handling everything? I asked, keeping my tone light. The stress. He's fine, Dad. We're fine. She set her fork down. Actually, I'm glad it's just us. I wanted to tell you something exciting. The shift in her demeanor was immediate. Seth and I are buying a house. Our own place. We'll finally be independent. I let surprise register on my face. A house. That's a big step. Where you looking? North Scottsdale. Really nice neighborhood. North Scottsdale. Warehouses started at $500,000 and climbed from there. I kept my expression neutral. Congratulatory. That's expensive territory. You must have found something special. Oh, Seth's been smart with money saving. And his bonuses have been great this year. Seth's bonuses, right? The same Seth who'd asked to borrow money for car insurance 2 months ago. I'm happy for you both, I said. You deserve it. The lie came out smooth, natural. Lula's phone buzzed again. She stood abruptly. I should get back. Seth will want to know how you reacted to our news. She was gone before I could respond. That night, I lay awake listening to their muffled conversation. Broke last month, now buying property. The timeline was too perfect. The next morning, I was checking the mailbox when Mr. Patterson, a neighbor who noticed everything, approached. Morning, Ray. Say, I saw your son-in-law at the Audi dealership yesterday. He grinned. That boy is doing well for himself. Oh, he was just looking around, I think. Looks serious to me. He was in that finance office forever over on Scottsdale Road. I drove immediately to Scottsdale Audi. I found the salesman, Tom, whom I recognized from years ago. I kept my tone casual. Actually, I saw my son-in-law here yesterday, Seth Davis. Thought I'd check what he bought. Wants to surprise my daughter. Tom relaxed. Oh, your son-in-law. Yes, Seth. Seth Davis, right? He just bought a Q7. Beautiful vehicle. Silver loaded. He leaned in, conspiratorial. Actually, he made a serious impression with that down payment. $25,000 cash. Not many young guys can do that these days. I thanked Tom and left. I made it to my truck, my mind calculating. $25,000 in cash. Bought 3 days after the theft. When I turned onto my street, I saw it immediately. A silver Audi Q7 sat in my driveway, new gleaming. I entered the house quietly. Heard Seth and Lula laughing in the guest wing. I went to my study, locked the door, opened my laptop, and created a new document, titled it Evidence. I listed everything. Audi Q7 purchase, $25,000 cash down payment, timing, 3 days after theft, Seth's avoidance, Lula's dismissiveness, house purchase announcement, their sudden wealth. I realized with absolute clarity that I'd been living with 2 people who saw me as nothing more than an asset to exploit. I wouldn't confront them yet. Let them buy their house, drive their new car, believe they'd gotten away with it. The bigger their dreams got, the harder they'd fall. A week later, I climbed the stairs to Marcus Webb's office. He was a functional lawyer, mid-50s, sharp. I placed my manila folder on his desk, my handwritten timeline, printed bank statements, photographs of the Audi. You've been thorough, Webb said. 35 years as a financial advisor teaches you to document everything. You've got timeline, opportunity, and suspicious behavior. What you don't have is proof that would satisfy a prosecutor. I don't want to prosecute them. I kept my voice level. What I want is information, complete financial information. Webb set down the folder. Public records are accessible for legitimate purposes. Mortgage applications, property transfers, tax liens, all public information. I can obtain these legally. 3 to 5 days. He slid a document across the desk. My rate is $350 an hour. For what you're asking, I'll need a retainer of $3,500. I pulled out my checkbook, wrote the amount without hesitation. Money wasn't the issue. Getting the truth was. What exactly are you hoping to find? I want to know where a $65,000 a year IT manager got $70,000 in cash. Webb's expression didn't change. I'll get you the documentation. What you do with it is your decision. I drove home and spent the next 4 days performing, playing the defeated father, the man who'd accepted his loss and moved on. The first day, I mentioned to Lula that I was closing the police report. They're not finding anything. She'd looked relieved. That's probably smart, Dad. Don't torture yourself over it. The second day, Seth asked about moving forward. I sighed, keeping my voice tired. What choice do I have? The money's gone. That's healthy, man, Seth said. Can't dwell forever, right? The third day, Lula asked me about the real estate market. I gave her genuine, detailed, and helpful advice. She didn't notice the irony. By the fourth day, they'd stopped watching me carefully. Their conversations grew louder, less guarded. They believed I'd given up. Good. When I returned to Webb's office, he had a stack of documents. He spread them across his desk. Mortgage application for $395,000. Down payment declared as $45,000 cash. Property in North Scottsdale suburbs. Seth Davis as primary borrower. Income verified at $65,000 annually. Webb pulled out another document. Banking records show no large deposits matching the down payment amount. No loans, no gifts, no inheritance declarations. He looked up. Where does a $65,000 a year IT manager get $70,000 in cash? He doesn't, I said. The timeline aligns. The amounts are suspicious, but without a confession or a witness, the police won't touch this. Then I need to find another way. Webb leaned back. If the law can't punish them, maybe the law can give me tools to do it myself. What options exist for someone who wanted to make their life difficult? 2 days later, I sat with Diana Torres, a forensic accountant recommended by Webb. She was former IRS auditor and direct. I handed her the timeline spreadsheet. She pulled up a visual graph on her laptop. Look at this. February 15th, you're robbed. February 18th, he makes a $25,000 cash down payment on an Audi. February 25th, he applies for a mortgage with $45,000 cash down. $70,000 in 10 days. Torres highlighted the cash payments in red. Structured transactions designed to avoid reporting requirements. If someone flagged this to the IRS, they'd want answers about income sources. Torres closed the laptop. The math doesn't lie. He had no legitimate source for this cash. The timing is too perfect. But proving it to a criminal standard, that's different. You'd need a confession or a witness. I requested a full, cross-referenced report for $1,200. That evening, I had both Webb's property research and Torres's forensic analysis. Seth and Lula had stolen the money, used $25,000 for the Audi, and $45,000 for the house. I organized the evidence, printed 2 copies, and filed one in a new safe and one in a bank safe deposit box. They thought they'd won. They were wrong. 2 weeks later, the move was approaching. The house closing was finalized. 8847 Pinnacle Peak Road. Tonight was their farewell dinner. I had put effort into the meal. Steaks on the grill, good dishes, wine glasses. Lula arrived first, carrying a cheap wine bottle. I'm proud of you both. Buying your first home is a big achievement. Seth arrived 10 minutes late, face flushed, eyes already glazed from drinking. He immediately poured himself a full glass of wine. Lula talked continuously about the house. Seth ate aggressively, refilling his glass between bites. I cut my steak methodically, nodded, and counted his drinks. Third glass. Seth leaned back in his chair, voice louder. No offense, Ray, but you live like someone from the last century. Who keeps cash in a house safe anymore? I smiled. Times change, I suppose. Fourth glass. Seth's filter disappeared entirely. You know what's funny? We lived here a year, and I never felt like adults. Now we're buying property. He laughed. It's surreal. Lula shot him a look. Seth maybe slowed down. I'm fine, babe. Just celebrating. He refilled his glass, spilled a few drops on the tablecloth. His eyes found mine. Something ugly glinting there. You should have hidden your treasures better, Ray. I mean, really, a safe in the study. That's the first place anyone would look. The table went silent. My face stayed pleasant, almost amused. You're absolutely right, Seth. Poor security on my part. Lula kicked him under the table. Seth, what are you? What? He seemed genuinely confused. I'm just saying, if you're going to keep cash around, be smarter about it. Lula stood abruptly. Movers come early tomorrow. Seth, come on. She guided him toward the hallway. I sat alone at the table, replaying his words. Should have hidden your treasures better. Not speculation. He knew. I slowly cleared the table, the mechanical movements helping suppress the rage. The next morning, I called Marcus Webb at 9 sharp. Marcus, I need everything on their property today if possible. Webb's office. He spread the documents. Property deed. He tapped the first page. Owner, Seth Michael Davis. Lula's not on the title. Single owner, single point of failure. Marcus, tell me about Arizona's tax lien system. Webb explained the process. The state sells tax lien certificates for unpaid property taxes. The buyer gets the right to collect the debt plus interest. If the debt remains unpaid after proper notification, the lien holder can foreclose. Webb typed into the county database. Davis, Seth M. Outstanding balance $8,247.16. $8,000. A tiny debt barely worth the county's effort to pursue. To me, it was a hook. What would happen if I bought Seth's tax lien? You'd own his debt. He'd owe you, not the state. If he doesn't pay within the legal time frame, you could force sale of assets. Webb paused, including the house. I leaned back in my chair. This is a long game, Ray. Webb's voice held a warning. 6 months minimum before you could foreclose. Probably longer. I've got time. And patience. I'll be clear. This is aggressive, but it's legal. Then I need you to set it up. Through a shell company if necessary. Seth shouldn't know I own his debt until I'm ready for him to know. The next morning, I watched from my window as the moving truck filled my driveway. Seth directed the movers. Lula got in the Audi and followed the truck. They were too busy with their new life to spare a thought for the old man they'd left behind. I went to my study and created a new document. Operation Timeline. Phase 1. Purchase tax lien through shell company Webb would establish. Phase 2. Let them settle in, get comfortable, 6 months, maybe longer. Phase 3. Apply financial pressure, IRS tip about unexplained cash. Phase 4. Demand payment when they're weakest. When they can't pay, move to foreclosure. Phase 5. Take the house, sell it at auction, watch everything they built crumble. This was about justice, about making them understand that stealing from someone they'd underestimated had consequences. 2 weeks later, the GPS announced my arrival as I turned onto Pinnacle Peak Road. 8847 sat at the end of a cul-de-sac, Spanish colonial style. Seth's silver Audi and a new Honda CR-V were in the driveway. I walked up and rang the bell. Lula opened the door. Her expression cycled through surprise, confusion, then forced politeness. Dad, this is unexpected. I held up the housewarming gift basket. Thought I'd check out the new place. Congratulations again. Seth appeared behind her. Ray. Hey, didn't expect to see you. Should I have called first? I kept my tone light. I can come back another time. Social convention trapped them. Lula stepped aside. No, come in. The interior matched the exterior's promise. Vaulted ceilings, leather furniture. The kitchen stopped me. Wolf range, sub-zero refrigerator. These appliances must have cost a fortune. We upgraded a few things, Seth said. Worth the investment. I made appropriate sounds of approval, mentally calculating. $15,000 in appliances, $20,000 in furniture. Lula led me to the backyard. The pool, outdoor kitchen. This is impressive. Really impressive. Seth returned with drinks. Water for Lula, beers for us. Seth drank quickly. How are the neighbors? I asked. Seth leaned back. Work's going well. Must be to afford all this. Yeah, actually got promoted to senior manager last month. Things are good. The lie came easily to him. The doorbell chimed. That's probably Mike and Sarah. We've got people coming over. I should go. Don't want to intrude on your party. I excused myself and walked to my truck, moving it farther down the street. More guests arrived. Expensive cars. Music and laughter drifted from the backyard. They were showing off their stolen life. 3 days later, I met Marcus Webb at a coffee shop. He slid a folder across the table. Complete tax records for Seth Davis. Webb pointed to a highlighted section. $8,247 unpaid from tax years 2022 and 2023. Current total with penalties. $9,180. They'll sell this debt to anyone who wants it. Arizona is investor-friendly that way. 16% annual interest. We created a limited liability company, Desert Peak Holdings LLC, with Webb as the registered agent. I signed the formation documents. Webb explained the LLC would purchase the tax lien directly from the county. Once you own it, you're his creditor. He owes you, not the state. How long before I could foreclose if he doesn't pay? Minimum 90 days after formal demand. Could take longer depending on his response. I've got time. Webb raised his eyebrows. This is aggressive, but it's legal. Tuesday morning, Webb called. It's done. Desert Peak Holdings now owns Seth's tax lien. The lien certificate has been recorded with the county. I opened a new folder. Phase 2 pressure. I sat at my desk and filled out IRS Form 3949A. Information referral. Anonymous, legal, untraceable. Taxpayer name, Seth Michael Davis. Address, 8847, Pinnacle Peak Road. Description, taxpayer made cash payments totaling $70,000 in February 2025. Vehicle down payment $25,000. Real estate down payment $45,000. Known salary $65,000 annually. No explanation for cash source. Possible unreported income. I click submit. Phase 2 initiated. 3 weeks of waiting. Mid-May my phone rang. Webb. Interesting development. Seth called my office this morning. He was asking my receptionist for tax attorney recommendations. Why would he need that? I made some calls. He's in trouble with the IRS. 2 days later, I called Seth. Strategic timing. Seth, it's rechecking in on you guys. Oh, hey. Pause. Not the best time, honestly. Just wanted to see how the house is treating you. Any issues? House is fine. I heard the stress beneath his words. You sound tired. Taking care of yourself. I'm fine. Really, just a lot going on. He hung up abruptly. That evening, my phone rang. 9:30, Dad. Lula's voice was tight. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Have you talked to anyone about Seth's finances? Anyone official? What? No. Why would I? What's going on? Seth got a letter from the IRS. They're investigating his taxes. Something about cash transactions earlier this year. He has to prove where money came from. She paused. Seth thinks someone reported him. Said it's too specific to be random. I kept my voice sympathetic. These audits happen randomly sometimes. IRS uses algorithms. The next morning, I drove to Webb's office. Figured you'd come in after Lula's call. Webb calculated Seth's minimum financial hit. $8,000 to $10,000 in attorney fees, plus the tax bill. Total financial hit around $25,000. I didn't contact them for 2 weeks, letting them deal with the IRS. I spent the time preparing the timeline for the final legal moves. 2 weeks later, I called Seth again. Lula answered, distracted. In the background, Seth's voice was angry. Seth's attorney says we might owe $20,000. We're fighting constantly. She hung up. Webb called that afternoon. IRS assessment. $18,500 total. Seth had 30 days to pay. Webb's contacts reported Seth was denied personal loans and was underwater by $4,000 on the Audi. He's out of options, Webb said. No liquidity, no credit, no assets to sell. Late May, my phone rang. Lula crying. Seth finally told me the truth about the money. He said he'd done something he shouldn't have. What did he do? He won't give me details, but I think he stole money or took it illegally somehow. Have you asked him directly if he stole money? He says he borrowed something without permission, planning to pay it back. That's called theft, Lula. But I'm your daughter. We could lose everything. Can you help us, please? I can't enable theft, Lula. Seth made choices. He'll face consequences. But I'm your daughter. You chose Seth over me long ago when you lived in my house, knowing he'd stolen from me. You knew. I've known for months. I was waiting for the right moment. You're behind this. The IRS. I reported suspicious financial activity. That's legal. What Seth did wasn't. Goodbye, Lula. I hung up, dropping the mask completely. I opened my status document. Phase 2 complete. Mask dropped. They know. Typed a new phase heading. Phase 3 endgame. June 15th. Desert Peak Holdings sends demand letter for tax lien payment. Amount with accumulated interest and penalties. $10,500. Foreclosure proceedings begin August 2025. Marcus Webb slid 2 documents across his desk. Seth was defaulting on the tax debt. Under Arizona law, 2 missed payments meant I could demand the entire balance of $10,500 immediately. Webb advised, wait until after the IRS penalty hits. Pile everything on at once. Overwhelm him financially. 2 weeks passed. Webb called. IRS rejected Seth's explanation. The penalty stands, $15,000 for underreporting income. Total IRS debt now over $33,000. Send the demand letter. I told Webb the next day. Certified mail. Signature required. I want proof he received it. That evening, my phone rang. Lula. Dad, it's me. I'm sorry for yelling at you last time. This is all Seth's fault. The IRS, the penalties, everything. He lied to me about so much. I know he did. You made your choice, Lula, when you stood by Seth after he stole from me. But I didn't know for sure. Not at the beginning. You suspected. You chose to ignore it. That's complicity. She started crying. Can't you forgive me? I'm your daughter. Doesn't that count for something? You'll have to live with marrying a thief. That's on you, not me. I hung up without responding. Days later, Lula called again, panic edging her voice. Seth got a letter from a company called Desert Peak Holdings. They're demanding $10,000 for some old tax debt. That's unfortunate. Seth thinks you're behind this company. Are you involved with them? Debts get sold to collection companies all the time. Seth should have paid his taxes. Then there'd be no debt to sell. I can't believe you're doing this to your own daughter. I'm not doing anything to you. Seth did this when he stole from me. These are just consequences. 2 weeks of silence followed. The Audi had a handwritten for sale sign in the window. I tracked Seth's finances. Deficit $1,850 every single month. Mathematically impossible to sustain. Webb called. Seth's attorney is investigating Desert Peak Holdings. They can trace it to you eventually. Just wanted you prepared. I'm ready for that. Late June, Lula called one final time, her voice completely broken. Dad, please. We're going to lose everything. I can't help you, Lula. Seth made choices. You enabled him. We're getting lawyers. We'll fight you. Good luck with that. I haven't broken any laws. You're a monster. No. Seth destroyed you when he stole from me. I'm just delivering consequences. I blocked her number. I looked up from my newspaper. Seth was striding up my walkway, face red, fists clenched, waving the papers. I opened the front door before he could knock. You. This is you, Desert Peak Holdings. You bought my tax debt. I leaned against the doorframe. Good morning, Seth. Something I can help you with. You're trying to steal our house. This is harassment. I bought a debt at a public sale. Completely legal investment. I reported suspicious financial activity. That's every citizen's right. He tried to push past me. This is revenge. His voice cracked. For that $180,000 you stole from my safe. First time I'd said it directly to him. You can't prove that. I can't pay $10,000. You know I can't. You found $70,000 to steal. Find $10,000 to pay your debt. You have until July 25th. And if I don't pay, I foreclose on your house. The law gives me that right. I'll pay you back. The money I took. All of it. I'll get a loan. Your credit's destroyed. No one will lend to you. Fine. He backed toward his car. You want war? I'll give you war. This isn't war, Seth. This is justice. Webb reported Seth's countermoves. He hired a private investigator for $2,000 to investigate me for harassment, a waste of money. He consulted a litigation attorney for $500, who advised him to pay the debt. Days later, my phone rang. Unknown number. Lula. Why didn't Seth tell me about old tax debts? You married him. You should have asked. He kept this from me. He lied about everything. In the background, Seth's voice. Hang up. Don't talk to him. Lula said. This is partly your fault, Lula. You're pushing us to this. I'm collecting a debt. Seth created it. I noted the complete breakdown between them. July 25th was the deadline. Seth had exhausted his resources trying to fight a legal, methodical plan. I drove past their house again. The Audi was gone. The house was dark. A for sale sign stood in the yard. Online, I saw the asking price was $/text $415 $000. After the mortgage and fees, they'd net maybe $/text $30 $000. Not enough. Webb obtained the private investigator's report. The conclusion, all my actions were legal. Seth had spent $/text $2 $000 to confirm I'd done nothing wrong. July 25th approached. The day before, Seth texted, I need more time. I'm selling the house. My response, deadline at 5 p.m. pay in full or face foreclosure. Not negotiable. July 25th, 5 p.m. passed. No payment. At 6 p.m., I called Webb. He didn't pay. File foreclosure paperwork tomorrow. Seth sent furious texts. Lula left a heartbroken voicemail. I blocked both numbers permanently. Webb filed the foreclosure notice. Original debt was $/text $9 $180. With 7 months of interest, late fees, and legal costs, the total came to $22,000. I signed the notice of intent to foreclose. Send it today. 2 days later, Seth called. $22,000. It was only $8,000. This is insane. Interest accumulates when you don't pay. You had 7 months. Okay, he said finally, his voice breaking. Yes, I took the money from your safe. I admit it, but I was going to pay it back, I swear. You had 7 months. You spent it on cars and houses and parties. Mistakes have consequences. This is yours. What do you want from me? My life. You want me destroyed. I want what you took. Since you spent it, I'll take what you bought with it. I hung up. Webb drafted one final offer. I would buy the house for the remaining mortgage balance, $/text $375 $000, plus forgive the $/text $22 $000 debt. That gives them some dignity, Webb said. Seth called, furious. You're trying to steal it. I'll never sell to you. Never. Then I'll buy it at auction for even less. Your choice. Lula called separately, whispering, Is the offer real? Seth refuses. He's too proud. Pride is expensive. You have 72 hours. 3 days later, Lula texted. Seth refuses. I told Webb to withdraw the offer and proceed with foreclosure. The court approved the auction for August 28th. August 28th arrived. I dressed in a suit, checked the cashier's check in my pocket, $/text $300 $000, and drove to the Maricopa County Courthouse. Webb met me. We entered the auction room. Seth and Lula sat in the back row, looking haggard. The auctioneer announced, 8847 Pinnacle Peak Road, Scottsdale. Opening bid, $/text $250 $000. The bidding climbed. $/text $270 $280. $/text $290,000. I said. The other bidder dropped out. Sold to bidder number 12 for $/text $290 $000. I walked to the front desk, signed the documents, and presented my check. The clerk stated, current occupants have 48 hours to vacate. I took the papers and left. Seth ran after me in the parking lot. You took everything, he said, face wet with tears. You took everything from me first, I replied. You have finalized your meticulous plan for revenge and achieved justice, even if it came at a financial cost. Seth ran after you, screaming. You simply stated the truth. You took everything from me first. Lula pulled him away, and they drove off, his sobs echoing in the parking lot. 48 hours later, the sheriff's deputies supervised their eviction. You drove to the house and walked through the empty rooms. The expensive furniture, bought with your stolen money, remained. You took possession of the house and immediately listed it $4/text $420 $000. A young family bought it 3 weeks later. In your study, you created the final accounting. Stolen $text $180 $000 in cash and the value of your wife's jewelry. Total assumed at $text $230 $000. Recovered after costs $text $290 $000 auction price minus the $text $385 $000 mortgage plus the furniture sales resulted in a net recovery of approximately $text $115 $000. Net loss $text $115 $000. You typed a final note. Could have accepted the loss. Chose justice instead. Worth it. Through Marcus Webb, you learned the full extent of Seth and Lula's ruin. Seth was forced into bankruptcy and was living in a motel, his wages now subject to IRS garnishments. He had lost his career, his home, and his life savings. Lula divorced him. Her credit was ruined, and she was left working a retail job, having paid the price for her complicity. She had lost the house she so desperately wanted, the husband she chose over you, and her easy life. Late that August, you stood on your patio watching the sunset. 6 months from the theft to the resolution. You hadn't recovered everything, but they had lost everything they built with your money. You recognized a profound truth in the stillness of the evening. Justice doesn't require joy, just completion. The sun disappeared. You walked inside, closing the door behind you. It was finished.